Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Golden Opportunities Coaching YouTube channel. Welcome to those of you who are new. Welcome back to those of you seasoned veterans of what we do around here. What we do around here is bring about conversations of a psychological, mental health, emotional health paradigm. We try to do that as often as we possibly can. We try to do that multiple times per week when possible, but we sometimes get behind. Anyway, in any event, if you are new here, please subscribe, like, comment, and ultimately say what you'd like to see. Also, if you're looking for advice on or coaching on relationships, both as parents and as partners, friends, business colleagues. I work with relationship and communication dynamics in all of those areas. Please feel free to reach out. There's a couple ways to do that. You can do it through Twitter at PO Perception, or you can do it through the About Me section of this YouTube page. Either way is going to lead you to a conversation with either me or a member of my team, and we can set up time to work together. So this particular audio is about things that parents shouldn't say. The first is that their child doesn't matter. Obviously, more so than ever before in history, and especially with COVID over the past 18 months or so, making time for family and children can be extremely difficult with the financial stressors and the unknown nature of the health that comes. But saying that a child's opinion, thoughts, feelings, emotions, or any part of them doesn't matter is completely toxic and should be avoided at all cost. That being said, there are times when parents are overwhelmed and they're on edge. So thinking something doesn't necessarily mean that ultimately they are, a bad person for thinking something. It's when it's vocalized and the child internalizes it that it becomes a problem. I wish there was more of an outlet of people who were able to express how overwhelmed they feel in terms of parenthood, because just because virtually the majority of the world can have children doesn't mean the majority of the world should. And if a person is capable of expressing how overwhelmed they feel, they are more likely to be able to come up with coping mechanisms that allow them not to be harmful to children. The next is that they have no time for their children. Truth is, every person has time. It's a matter of whether they choose to use it towards their child or not. There are choices that we make every day about how we spend our time, and what we value is where we put our time. So the reality of the ultimate mindset is it's the same as saying we don't value our children if we don't make time for them. Now, there are some people that do not value parenthood, yet they have children. This is more prevalent among males. However, it does exist within some females as well. It doesn't make that person a bad person. It just means they're in over their head with parenthood. And so being present when one promises to be there for their children is important, but also beginning to understand what your natural wiring is also valuable. Um, doing the comparison game. So, if a parent were to say something like, "You need to be more like your sibling, more like your best friend, more like the smart kid at school," the comparison game eventually will lead to a feeling within the child that the child isn't enough. This will cause eventual acting out behaviors in a myriad of ways. So, never involving the comparison game is a good rule of thumb. However, sometimes people do make that mistake. Backtracking and then giving alternative ways in which the child is successful, good, useful, helpful, and loved is important almost immediately, so that those "I wish you were more like this person" in this way could be a good qualifier. In other words, showing a trait, but I'm glad you are who you are, in another way should be a follow up. The next is calling the child a disappointment. While you can be disappointed in the actions of a child, calling the individual a disappointment will lead to self-esteem issues, anxiety, panic, depression, suicidal ideation, potentially substance abuse, and all sorts of things. Now, obviously, for the most part, a single event of this won't cause that, but repeated behavior implying that the child has very little value or is a personal disappointment, especially to a parent or caregiver, can lead to a myriad of mental and emotional health related challenges. The next is the old tripe "because I said so." If you don't have a reason for why you're asking your child to do something, even if it's because I want you to be safe, such as touching a stove or not knocking over a crystal bowl or whatever, then it shouldn't be said. Because I said so is trite and it's a power play. And unfortunately, so many parents are so exhausted, they use this way too often. The problem is teaching a child to respect authority without reason will eventually either cause the child to think that all authority is equal, which is not always the case, and or that no authority has any value because they can't back up what they believe and the rules don't make sense. So if you want a disciplined child, you have to have them understand, at least on some level, that ultimately um, there are situations where that becomes an issue. The next is, I'm going to leave you and never return, or the implication of a parental leaving. Now, there are cases where parents do leave. Divorces happen, separations happen, and one person finds they're not equipped to be a parent and they choose to walk away rather than harm the child. That does happen. And although it's rare sometimes, depending on the mental and emotional and financial and other stability for the child, it can be beneficial. However, threatening to leave and returning to the child is extremely harmful, and therefore the need to behave in order to be loved is horrible. Now, obviously, there are cases where a parent is incapable of parenting, and that's where things like termination of parental rights come from, and all of those sorts of things. But at the end of the day, a child has to feel safe and secure in their primary environment and with their caregivers, and parents should avoid saying anything that would lead a child to feel insecure. So hopefully this is helpful. I encourage you to keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Until next time, everybody.